Hello everyone, Sulli-Days here, and welcome to the start of Happy Sulli-Days. Happy Sulli-Days has returned, and there's going to be plenty of good things to go over this month. So let's begin with a review of a movie that has gained big cult status, and is the first version of the classic holiday song from GoodTimes Entertainment. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the movie. The movie is based on the story by Robert L. May and the classic holiday song by Johnny Marks. And, as an unrelated fun fact, Johnny Marks was once neighbors with Arthur Rankin Jr. before making the original Rudolph special. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. A reindeer, born with a red nose, lives in the stable of one of Santa's reindeer, Blitzen, and was named Rudolph. But Blitzen feels ashamed of his son's red nose and having to show him to everyone else. But eventually Rudolph is made fun of by every elfin reindeer for his glowing red nose, except for one doe named Zoe, who has an attraction for him. But during the reindeer games, Rudolph is disqualified for using his red nose, and he runs away, only to come across and befriend a white fox named Slyly and a polar bear named Leonard. And all the while, an evil ice queen named Stormella plans to unleash a giant snowstorm for Santa and the North Pole if someone crosses her bridge again, because two elves have accidentally wrecked Stormella's ice garden when crossing her bridge and getting letters for Santa. Now, of course, this is a feature-length version of the original song, yet some might argue that it's a different variation on the original special. But I don't think it's supposed to be. I mean, sure, there are facts and similarities to them, like Zoe was originally named Clarice, Rudolph's born to one of Santa's reindeer, and a few others. But it shouldn't be confused with the original special. There are plenty of changes and additions to differ from the two. One, the reindeer games are actually shown. Yeah, only the first event is being shown, but at least it's more like a big tournament than what the original did, which felt more like a training ground for the games. And instead of the snowstorm coming in by natural means, it's all from Stormella, which would make a huge difference if nobody crossed her bridge. But there are moments that felt odd and questionable, like when Rudolph is disqualified from the games for using his nose. Now, on the one hand, it makes sense, as using the nose could have caused his rival Arrow to crash and maybe cause a pileup. But on the other hand, when did this become a rule in the reindeer games? Rudolph's the only reindeer to have a glowing red nose, and yet using the nose is illegal in the games? I know it's to enforce the fact that everyone is against Rudolph for his glowing nose, and to tie in with the original song and story, but come on, no future-born reindeer is going to be like Rudolph, and even if so, the rule felt unneeded. There's also a running gag where Slyly takes Rudolph's teddy bear to sleep with, which might be cute, but I didn't think it was funny. Speaking of being funny, the humor of it all is a bit awkward to me, in the same way the story of Santa Claus was awkward with its humor. There's odd pauses, jokes that don't get much of a laugh, but the difference with the story of Santa Claus and this is that the characters in this film are given more time to develop and are just fine. But the songs in the film, for the most part, are just okay. Yeah, the lyrics aren't too memorable, and even the songs themselves are very pointless as they don't further anything and just stop the film, but they're just alright for what they are. Except for two, which aren't really original. One is a rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer by Clint Black, which was pretty good, even though the film's version is alright. And the other is Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney, which happens during one of Santa's takeoffs as Rudolph tries to see it happen. There's also a bit of elves and reindeer caroling just like the song mentioned, and they even mouth that part. But it's too bad that the song was cut short as I was getting into it, and the cut happens after the singing carolers, which is a pretty weird place to cut as it's so jarring to notice a huge change. I would like to hear the whole song in its entirety. Also, Rudolph's singing voice is clearly not like his speaking voice, because it's not from the same performer and it's pretty distracting. And the semi-all-star cast of actors voicing the characters did a very nice job. John Goodman voices Santa Claus, Whoopi Goldberg voices Stormella, Debbie Reynolds voices Mrs. Claus, Mitzi, and Mrs. Prancer, Eric Idle voices Slyly, Bob Newhart voices Leonard, Kathleen Barr voices Rudolph and Twinkle, Eric Papasil voices young Rudolph, Miriam Cyrus voices Zoe and Glitter, Vanessa Morley voices young Zoe, Gary Chalk voices Blitzen, Richard Simmons voices Boone, Alec Willows voices Noggle, Lee Tockhart voices Ridley, and Kathy Westlock voices Sparkle. As a whole, this movie is alright. The characters are fine, the story is good, the animation is alright, and the songs are okay. Director Bill Kowalchuk had done an okay job of retelling the classic holiday song into a feature-length film, with a semi-all-star cast and such. But at times it felt a bit awkward with its humor, and certain story points don't add up. Yet I will say it's a passable film to watch over for the Christmas season, and shouldn't be confused with the 1964 Rankin-Bass version. And while I do find this one to be okay, the original version is still the best. So today, this movie we get a rating of 2.5 plus stars. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, support me on Patreon, and tune in next week for more Happy Sulli-Days. And I just hope that GoodTimes Entertainment's next version of the classic song is just as good. Oh boy.